I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. You come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time.
The world could do.
That
It's
shit
like
sucks. Damn.
All right, we're live and you feel a little nostalgic. You remember that early 90s show Goosebumps where, of course, it was like condensed child horror. It was like watching horror for the first time, and I remember really loving it. I used to watch Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon, and it was like back and forth. If I couldn't watch one, then I needed to watch the other. It was like binge watching some crack. I really needed to inject that hit into my system. But we're not talking about the past. We're not talking about going back and reliving nostalgia. We're talking about modern times. That's right, there's a new Goosebumps show coming out October the 13th, Friday the 13th. So when Jason is hunting your ass down, you're gonna sit down and watch this show on Disney Plus and Hulu. And honestly, I managed to have a cached version of the trailers. Apparently Disney, in their infinite wisdom for the new Goosebumps show that was originally codenamed Goosebumps Resurrection, for this reboot they decided to have a teaser called Don't Blink, and that's the 30-second teaser that you'll see on YouTube everywhere. That's not the trailer that I saw. The full thing got leaked about 7-8 days ago, and people managed to find it. I found this through 3C Films. Chris Parker, shout out to him. He covers a lot of horror content but also does like pop culture, so I saw it through him on Twitter. And apparently, because the algorithm or whatever the fuck going on behind the scenes, the cache like video file saved on my Discord, and I managed to still watch it from there even though he deleted the tweet. And I viewed it, and I have some kind of mixed reactions, even though I am a little bit more optimistic about the show. So if you haven't seen it, I'm talking about the full trailer that they haven't released just yet. Number one is that pros and cons. All right, we're gonna start with the positive first. I like the fact that it looks well shot. It's a very well shot show. It's also something that feels darker in tone and nature, a little bit more meaner and sinister in a sense with the events going on. I do like that, and it causes mystery, intrigue. What is this like weird fog that goes into the bottom of Justin Long's throat? Like, what is possessing him to do this? I assume he's gonna be the main antagonist causing all of these events to happen. I think that's fine. That basic synopsis for all the events going on and what's going to happen and how we get to this certain point affecting the kids and everything, I think that's cool. That's fine. And Justin Long, that's the guy that's been in like Jeepers Creepers. He's a very cool actor. I remember, like, I don't even remember him from Jeepers Creepers, actually. I remember watching him mainly because of his chemistry and dynamic with Bruce Willis in Live Free or Die Hard, which was, yeah, people say Die Hard 4 was shit. Like, that movie was good, I'm not gonna lie. Like, me admitting Die Hard 4 was fine for what it was, and then we got the fifth movie, which we won't even fucking mention or name, but that's besides the point. Either way, he's great. And everything I've seen him in, he's fine for the most part. So I think he's going to kill this role as the antagonist. He appears to be the antagonist at least, but it's an innocent man apparently possessed. And it's gonna be fun. If he can like maybe play it up, ham it up a little bit, I know he can. It's going to be a swell time seeing that actor in this role. Those are the positives for now. I'm gonna get to the mixed, of course. And this is very important. First and foremost, the actors outside of Justin Wong, I'm not feeling them. It's a weird synergy and dynamic, and I know these are kids that have to prove themselves, teenagers that have to prove themselves. I just don't really feel and resonate with their energy. It's just off. Maybe they'll become better characters over time. This is why this is in the mixed category, because right now it seems like every modern teenager stereotype just being implemented now. Like, you have your jock character, you have your female goth, it looks like she's goth or whatever. You have your fucking prima donnas and stuff like that. You have just these characters that we've seen time and time again. The geeks, which I assume is the curly haired guy. It's something that you just demand a little bit more with your storytelling, because of these archetypes we've seen in the past before. Just these ditzy teenagers trying to like solve this mystery, and all of a sudden it's like, I've already seen your character before. You could have taken the unique characters from the books and implemented them here. I'm not sure if they're still doing that, because we're gonna get to the next point that we kind of have a problem with later on in the cons, but still, it could work given the circumstances. Maybe the more I watch this series, they'll become likable, but for now, I'm not feeling some of the acting. And with that, I'm not feeling the believability of the age of the actors, because you can look at things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, who clearly went out of their way to cast age-appropriate actors to their roles, and they killed it. Whereas this, you can clearly tell that these are actors portraying teenagers, but they are clearly like 29, 30, and it's gonna look weird if this is a big popular success and you find out like old Davy Boy is like 30 years old, 40, and he's trying to play a teenager fresh out of high school or fresh in high school, one or the other. Either way, it looks weird, and it kind of takes me out of the experience. It kind of breaks my immersion a little bit when they have like these plain ass looking adults playing these teenage heroes. So that's a small little nitpick that I have. It's not really the worst thing in the world. Maybe I will start to like these characters, find them likable over time. I mean, hell, I had a moment in time where I thought the characters, well, some of them at least, in the Friday the 13th reboot, I thought they weren't great, or remake should I say, but I like the Chinese dude. He was cool. He's a cool character, except for like the dumb jock character. It's just the archetypes. Like, I just want the characters from the original stories to come back and maybe have their stories intertwined with everything, instead of these weird sort of seemingly new OCs. This leads into my next mixed aspect of this trailer. I'm wondering personally how they are going to handle this adaptation. I guess I could mix this in with a con, because it sort of segues into this anyway. One thing about the show is that it's not going to be an anthology series where it's something akin to scary stories to tell in the dark, where you're taking one portion of the stories from the books, like Cuckoo Clock of Doom, the Night of the Living Dummy, Say Cheese and Die, Go Eat Worms, because there's no one that asked for that. One of the most horrible stories of all time, where one of these nerdy bullies is so obsessed with worms, and he gets so mad and annoyed, and he's such an asshole that they start appearing in his lunch and his cereal and his sandwiches, because the worms are that annoyed of that character. Literally, R.L. Stine said the story was complete grade A trash, and yet we're getting it adapted to the lesser silver screen, right? Let's move on. Haunted Mass, which is great. Carly Beth's survivor story of trying to get this mask that's like wielded on her face off, because it's fleshy, it's organic, it's real, baby. And it's one of the more haunting stories of Goosebumps. And it makes me wonder, if it's not going to be an anthology series where everything is dissimilar from each other, there's no need for this connectivity, then that means everything is going to be put on like one slab of a linear story, because it all has to connect. And I think that's a missed opportunity for sure. It should have been just like the show in the original 90s, where they decided to do like the books, but they might do like a part 2, part 1, part 2, part 3 sometimes, and tell the story that way. That would have worked perfect for Monster Blood, because that's like 4 parts. Monster Blood 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why not do an anthology and just make certain episodes into parts if you can't run the whole fucking thing? Or now these days you can run shows for like an hour, so that's enough to cover that one specific anthology. I don't get why they didn't do it that way and decided, hey, we're gonna have everything interconnect. I think that's gonna be messy, muddy, is gonna be green and messy. Like Monster Blood is gonna be a recipe for a disaster when growing this thing out. And unless they do some heavy lifting within each episode, it's just gonna feel that way to me. It's gonna feel like there's not enough time to work and archive on these stories, because they're basically not an anthology, so you're not really focusing on the full book itself, which is going to be weird to some people. Although this part is in the mixed category, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They could prove me wrong. They could make me a believer, so to speak. They could pull it off. You know, sometimes you can have a mess in the corner and you could just clean it, pull it off, and everything will look fine. We'll see what happens with that. While I might be wishy-washy on particular things with them doing this certain adaptation and not doing an anthology, I will say I did appreciate what I saw. I saw the Say Cheese and Die camera, which will be a paranormal experimented camera that will make people have accidents, that will possibly kill people if they go in that direction. We saw the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, where that in particular, that story dealt with a little bit of backwards shenanigans with people being born and other people being erased out of existence because of the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. That could be a cool story, but again, since it's not anthology, you probably won't see the real impact of that story as we go along. We have Slappy, who is a signature character of the series, you know, born and bred mayhem, the imitation of Chucky, the ventriloquist doll, causing so much chaos, manipulation, and panic throughout family lives that, of course, he needed to be in this. Now, I saw in the Goosebumps Resurrection images, he's sporting a little leprechaun fedora, and I don't know how I feel about that, but he is back in full swing, so they're gonna adapt Night of the Living Dummy. As I said before, Go Eat Worms, one of the worst Goosebumps stories of all time, right next to The Barking Ghost. I don't get why they do this. I don't get why. Why would you adapt one of R.L. Stein's self-proclaimed hated stories? Like, you want to fight? Or something? Like, it's just Jesus Christ. Holy shnikes. You could have taken something else. I would have taken the fucking superhero one, the Attack of the Super Mutant or whatever, the antagonist, super villain, whatever the fuck he is. I would have taken that. I would have taken One Day at Horrorland, where a theme park actually tries to murder the fuck out of you and has no remorse whatsoever. I would have taken anything over Go Eat Worms. anything good, at least anything pertinent, good, and satisfying, rewarding, anything over go eat some worms and stuff it in your jaw, man. That's just seriously. Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, I would have taken that. That would have been kind of nice to see modern. We don't get like a lot of mummy stuff anymore. Granted, the last mummy thing we got had Tom Cruise screaming in an airplane with no audio or sound whatsoever, and they thought that was a good idea to post in the trailer. That mummy reboot sucked. But let's continue on. I digress. Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Awesome. That would have been a great adaptation. Instead, we get Worms. Worms Armageddon. For real. In an actual show. In an actual book. And it was complete terrible. I again, there are some things that I like on here as adaptations. I think Say Cheese and Die and Cuckoo Clock of Doom, they have potential in the story. It depends on how the writing goes. Anyway, that's enough of me nerding out for now. I'm going to also talk about two other cons, which is the Haunted Mass. I think it kind of looks lame, but maybe this can go into the mixed category because it looks like a random opera mask this time around, like a plain porcelain white V for Vendetta mask, like not fully exaggerated to that extent, but a plain paper plate white mask. And I hope that's not the Haunted Mask, because I remember the Haunted Mask being green, spongy, organic, fleshy, with these weird orc-like teeth on the cover. You see it on the cover. Even Haunted Mask 2, it gets worse because now the new character is wearing the old man variant of the face, and it is stuck and it's disgusting and it's saggy. Even the show had like a decent rendition, although it looked more like a more diseased orc than anything, with these giant funny looking teeth. It didn't look as scary as the book cover, but it still was kind of decent. And now we have this operatic mask, and I don't know how I feel about that. Although I did speculate in my own Discord. This is why I have a horror Discord for stuff like this to go down with my friend. Shout out to Cryo Gaming. We speculated that the mask could mutate. Maybe it gets worse over time. It could be something like that, where it gets stuck on your face slowly, and the more organic it gets, the more uglier it could become. That could be a possibility, although we are talking about writing of today, so they might just ignore that completely, and that might never happen. So interesting ideas kind of get shafted. But you know, anything could happen. This is why it's mixed, because I don't want to speculate too much. Then I'm wrong, then that happens, then it's like, oh, I got egg on my face, whatever. But they could potentially do that idea, just speaking hypothetically. If they do, I would be interested, but for now I don't like how it looks. And then the final con of this trailer is just a trailer thing outside of everything I just mentioned. It's just something they're gonna put in the trailer only, and I don't think it's gonna be the main theme song of Goosebumps. I would prefer it to be the rendition of the early 90s but remixed. They decided to add in a song called Goosebumps from Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar, and this song was pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie. This was, you could have added some horror stock music, and that would have set the tone a little bit more effectively over just, I get those goosebumps every time. Brr, brr, brr. Like, what is that? Like, what the holy motherfuck is that? Like, brr, brr, brr. Like, literally, that's how the song sounds. Like, I get those goosebumps every time. I personally don't understand. What did they want to imitate? Someone having flatulence outside of a tuba? Like, what the freaking hell is that? Dude, whoever decided to have this song choice needs to be fired outside of their dick hole. It's ridiculous. And now I'm thinking about it, it was in my head the whole week. Not because of how great it was, but because of how mind-numbingly disorienting it was to the entire trailer, which it just felt out of place. It had no business being there. You want to talk about certain pieces of music being implemented in trailers that will take you out of the experience of what you're looking for, then look no further than Travis Scott's Goosebumps 101. That song did not fit at all. And you could tell it was just like, we're gonna go, we are the editors, we're the video editors, we're gonna go on YouTube. What resonates with Goosebumps? Well, how about this super trippy hip-hop song which talks about nothing pertinent in the lyrics, and it's going to just simply call to us with Goosebumps. That's what we want. You could have looked up stock song A, horror related, and you would have got the same effect. It just kind of reeled me out. I just think it was not good. Although, that being said, it could win me over if they decide to put in some great music, some of the main theme from the original being reorchestrated. That would be great. And yeah, I just feel really mixed about this now that I think about it more. Although, like I said, I will say if they prove me wrong, I'll be a little bit more optimistic, because I'm not going to go just from the trailer alone. Although I see people might potentially like this, but if it's not well liked, I think what most people will say as Goosebumps fans, they'll tell you that just watch the original. I'm not sure if that collection is out there on any websites, like the streaming websites like Disney or whatever. Let's check. I'll do this for you guys, some quick research live. Let's see, Goosebumps digital show. I'll just check that for you. Okay, you can watch that on Netflix. Anything could turn spooky in this series, based on the best-selling books from Scholastic by the master of kid horror, R.L. Stine. And you can just go and watch that on Netflix and enjoy yourself, right? Don't even get a Disney subscription if it turns out to be just a complete bastardized version of what you know and what you watched as a kid for Goosebumps. But like I said, I'll watch it because I'll give it a fair shake. I'll give it a fair shot and see for myself if I really like it as a Goosebumps fan. Although I know this is why people hold the series like very near and dear, because again, you can get an IP and you could easily squander it. It could easily happen. And I get that, but I see people, if they like this, that's cool. I have no problem with that either. You like what you like, I like what I like. You know, I like things that people hate, and then I hate things that people love. That's how it goes in life. And then there's things that you'll be mixed about, and it just goes like that, and people wonder why. It's just like, hey, it is what it is. At times I could end up liking the show and the reception could be very hated upon, and that could be very true. You never know what could happen. I like the darker tone. I like those thematics. I like the nature of how things are shot and how stuff looks creepy, and it just builds more and more and more. They have that going for them. They really do. It's just the execution I'm worried about. You can have a lot of great ideas on paper for a television show, but will they actually execute that will make all of Goosebumps happy? You know, the casuals, the modern people that never read Goosebumps, the people that did. You have to cater to a lot usually when making projects like this. Will it be executed? Remains to be seen. Will I be watching it? Hell yes. Will I be making a review? Double hell yes. And one of my fondest memories of Goosebumps was, honestly, I'm gonna add this in as a bonus. It was honestly reading the holographic sort of novels that came with Goosebumps. It was called Give Yourself Goosebumps. Reader beware, you're in to choose your own destiny. And one thing I really liked was you could choose certain paths in the book and go in certain directions, and it could end for your character. You could die in the book if you read a certain way. If you decide to activate a carnival ride, for instance, as a hypothetical, you could do that. Maybe it will kill you, or if you don't and you go in another direction, maybe your character will live. And it had like differing endings in there, and I really loved that shit. It was like a choose your own adventure of Goosebumps while reading certain things like Night of a Thousand Claws, or It's Only a Nightmare, or Secret Agent Grandma, which is the funniest cover ever because you got an alien exploding, being a body snatcher out of a literal old lady. I love this stuff so much. I can't recommend it enough. If you're still into Goosebumps, definitely check it out. And I will check out the show later. Like I said, I'm a little bit mixed, but I lean a little bit more on a positive note because I just like the presentation and overall what they're offering so far. I just want that adaptation done right as usual, and I'll see what happens. You can win me over easily. It's not hard to do that at all. Until then, as long as it's good, like as long as it's good, even decent, even okay, I think I would take that over just plain lazy and them just simply saying we're gonna take this IP and just squander it into the ground. But I digress. That's the end of this little talking point of the Goosebumps trailer that didn't come out. Is not Don't Blink. Don't get that twisted. We will have Goosebumps every time, according to Travis Scott. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this little discussion, rant, positives, negatives, mixed pros, cons on the new Goosebumps trailer, and I will see you when it actually comes out because Disney's not unlisting it right now. If I find it, I'll put it in the description for you guys, just for you. But until then, I'm really signing out. Take care of yourselves, keep it spooky, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.